Every speaker has a mouth, an arrangement rather neat. Sometimes it's filled with wisdom, and sometimes it's filled with feet. Hello again, everybody. I'm Eli's dad with Project Eli, where we educate, lead, and inspire. And today we're going to talk about three different things. We're going to talk about having a great attitude, about public speaking and making presentations, and about words versus taking action. I'd like you to join Eli and me today as we discuss these three elements of being successful. All right, let's start off with attitude. You know, our attitude towards others determines their attitude towards us. This is a quote from Earl Nightingale. You know, when you are working with somebody, when you're giving them direction, there was a gentleman that worked the same place I did, and he always made up a list for somebody to do something, and always the list was written in a derogatory way. Do this, don't forget to do that. Never was the word please inserted. You know, even when you're in a supervisory role, the word please and the words thank you should be used a lot. Don't always come from the position of like, I'm the master, you're the slave, because what that does is when that person would read that list every day, the first thing he would develop would be a negative attitude towards the work he needed to get done. It was work that needed to be done anyway, but when you can find a way to put it so that it's not something that develops a negative attitude, which is similar to the next quote, which is from a gentleman named Nguyen Van Tho, which says, quote, "Say what you mean what you say, just don't say it mean." All right, that's you. When you're in a situation where you are in charge, the way you make your requests to get stuff done is a tremendously determining factor in how well the job gets done. So once again, be aware of the way that you deliver your requests for tasks to be performed. The words you speak today should be soft and tender, for tomorrow you may have to eat them. That's a nice way of saying, you know, don't be such a big shot, don't be such a know-it-all, because sometimes the things you say today, you're going to find out were not exactly correct. You have to smile if you expect anybody to smile back. And that's a quote from Jonathan Evison. People will mirror what it is that you do when you see them. If you give somebody a smile, especially, and I like to say this because I found this to be a real good way of getting people just in a good mood, is you smile with your eyes. All right? I'm glad to see you. Smile. When you do that, people, you know, they come in, a lot of times they have, you know, the attitude, something bad happened, but when you smile at them, they will mirror back, and you will be able to lift other people's spirits, and they'll be glad to see you, and they will assume that you are an oasis in a desert of negative people. All right, let's have some quotes on public speaking and presentations. This first one is from F.P. Jones, and he tells us, quote, "Don't be afraid to talk to yourself. It's the only way that you can be sure that somebody's listening." You know, whenever you're going to make a presentation, it's always a good idea to drill, practice, and rehearse. And that means saying it out loud. That means saying in front of a mirror. That means speaking the actual words and not just thinking them. Trust me, as a speaker, you want to do that, because if you just go up and try and wing it, you know what you're going to get? You're going to get wing it results. That's not what you want. So practice your speech, practice your presentation in the mirror, see what's going on, and then you're in a position where you're going to be a lot more comfortable when you're in front of the audience. Okay, we already did that one. Light travels faster than sound. That's why certain people appear bright until you hear them speak. And that's from Albert Einstein. All right? He would certainly know that light travels faster than sound. You know, sometimes people are, you know, they give you an impression they're dressed very nicely, they look great, so on and so forth. And then when they open their mouths, you say to yourself, my God, this is an ignorant person. Don't always make, people tend to make judgments based on appearance. I do, everybody does, all right? And one of the things that you want to do is you don't want to assume anything about anybody. Wait until they make a presentation to you before you make your judgment. Then you're going to be in a lot better position to make an assessment. And the same thing applies to you. So that's why it's best to be prepared before you speak. Because when you're prepared, then you will give off the right message that you want to deliver. Look your audience straight in the eyes and begin to talk as if every one of them owed you money. That's Dale Carnegie. When people owe you money, you tend to want to be persuasive in terms of receiving that money. So look them in the eye. And when you look the audience in the eye, and you go from person to person, you're not like this, all right? But look at somebody, make eye contact. Look them directly in the eyes when you're making a presentation. That shows sincerity. That shows that you care. So that's a real nice tactic. And once again, if anybody knows about tactics, about how to win friends and influence people, it would be Dale Carnegie, the author of that book. My job is to talk. Your job is to listen. If you finish first, please let me know. That's the feeling I get a lot of times, Eli, when I'm speaking to you. We're in a situation where we need to do some, shall we say, correcting, and I sit there and I'm talking to you and I feel like I'm being tuned out. So it's a very uncomfortable situation. A lot of times, when somebody has done something wrong or incorrect or whatever, they start to tune the person out. So what's a good way to do that? A good way to make the correction? One of the things that I was taught as a salesperson, you get, you're there and you're closing and you want to, get the check, you want to get the name on the contract, you want to make the sale, you want to get the person, this is the right way to say it, you want to get them happily involved. If you want to get somebody happily involved and you ask for the check and then they come up with an objection, or you're talking to somebody and they're, like sometimes a child is, and they tune you out, it's a good idea to use a softening statement. A softening statement is very simply, when you were playing basketball, I could see that your focus was unbelievable. I couldn't believe how well you were able to see the whole court and to see all the players. And then when you made that look away pass, I said, boy, there's somebody that's really practiced. Eli, I was very proud of you. Let's talk about something that's gone on here that I also want to be proud of you about. And make a softening statement. It doesn't have to be as long as that. It can be, you did an outstanding job on that particular project, Fred, that we were working on. Now, this particular project, it doesn't seem to have that much progress as we had with the previous one that you did such a good job on. Let's talk about that for a minute. Let's see if we can't get it up to that same level, because that's what we expect from you because you did so well in the first one. Use a softening statement first before you just, get right into somebody. You'll find that works pretty well. Never argue with a fool, because onlookers may not be able to tell the difference. A lot of times you're in a discussion with somebody and you can see that the person is, how can I say this, an idiot, all right? Something's obvious and they're taking a position where it's just completely ridiculous. Stop. You're wasting your breath. You don't need to speak to hear yourself talk. You're not going to convince this person is a fool, and if other people see you doing that, they're saying, he's a fool, and he's a fool. All right, and by the way, that was from Mark Twain. Samson killed 1,000 men with the jawbone of an ass. That many sailors are killed every day with exactly the same weapon. When I am training salespeople, one of the things you want to do is you want to ask for the check. You know, I need you to okay it right here. You don't say signature, just the same way as you don't say sale. You say happily involved. So you don't say, I need your signature here. You know, I need you to just okay it right here. I need your okay. And once the person has agreed with you, you don't need to go and oversell what's already been bought. So once, you know, you go to buy the car dealer is not going to keep telling you, or you shouldn't be, keep telling you all the different features. That's why you bought it in the first place. And once you do that, you start to give additional extraneous information, you can kill the sale right there. So once the sale is made, accept that the sale is made, and don't continue onward. You want to button up. You want to go over the the features, advantages, benefits with them. Write them down on an envelope, to keep your sale strong. But you don't need to keep going on and on and on and on and on. That's not the way it's done. So that's why they say sales are lost with the jawbone of an ass. Your smile is a messenger of your goodwill. One of the things, Eli, that you're going to find is if you're smiling at somebody, you can virtually say anything you want to them, and they won't be offended if you say it the right way. If you smile and say, that was a pretty ugly thing that you did. And if you say it the right way, they're not going to get offended. They might say, why do you say that? All right? If you say it with goodwill, if you say it with a smile, then you're able to express your point and not get somebody so up in arms that the conversation is useless. Let's talk a little bit about words versus taking action. Be content to act and leave the talking to others. There's a saying where parents with children is do as I say, not as I do. People believe your actions before they believe you. They'll listen to your words, they'll believe your words, but if your actions are not congruent with your words, that's a sign of major insincerity. And what happens is people start to make judgments on you, both business-wise and personal-wise, socially. This is not the way you want to be. So make sure that your actions are congruent with your words. Also make sure that when you say you're going to do something, that you have immediate follow-up. Don't say something and then 2 months later go back to it. No, there has to be immediate follow-up. That's the way that you get things done. That's the way that you move forward. One deed is worth 1,000 speeches. Fairly obvious. If you see somebody and they're, let's say, playing basketball, and they say, oh, I'm a hard-nosed basketball player, as opposed to somebody that gets in front and takes a hit right in the chest, draws an offensive foul, and you say to yourself, that guy's a doer. That guy's a player. That guy carries the lunch pail. You need to have people like that. You want to be somebody like that. You want to lead by example. You're too many leaders lead by the power of their words instead of the power of their actions. The power of your actions are so much more effective than the power of your words. So keep that in mind. The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. Walt Disney. Now, Walt Disney, as you may know, declared bankruptcy, I believe, 7 separate times. But he had a dream, a goal, an ambition, a passion that he pursued over and over and over and over, and he would not be denied. How many people do you know that could go 7 different bankruptcies before they became a success? He was one. You take the action. You take the action. You're going to run into roadblocks. You're going to run into failures. But you pick yourself up. You go to a new starting line, and you begin again. You take the action. This is, people that are successful tell you all the time, the way to be more successful is to have more failures. The more at-bats that you get, the more chances you have to hit the home run. Words may show a man's wit, but actions his meaning. All right, we're saying pretty much the same thing here. That was from Benjamin Franklin. Effective communication is 20% of what you know and 80% how you feel about what you know. All right, if you want to be a communicator, you want to have some passion in your words. If you're just talking in one big continuous monotone without any pauses and making your thoughts, that not continue, how passionate is that? People tend to tune that out. If you want to be a speaker, if you want to express a thought, if you want to move people, then you have to have that passion, because enthusiasm is contagious. The last 4 letters of the word enthusiasm are IASM, and they stand for I am sold myself. Enthusiasm is contagious. When you do that with little kids, all right? I remember, Eli, when we would want to go to the relatives, and to be candid with you, when I was a little kid, I wasn't all excited about going to the relatives' house either. They said, we're going to the relative, we're going to see Uncle Melvin and Aunt Ruth, all right? You don't say, hey, get ready, we're going to see Uncle Melvin and Aunt Ruth. You say, hey, guess what we're going to do? We're going to see Aunt Ruthie and Uncle Melvin. Let's go! Enthusiasm is contagious. So if you want to get people to do things, one of the things you want to be is you want to be enthusiastic with them. Very simple. I don't like to hear cut and dried sermons. When I hear a man preach, I like to see him act as if he were fighting bees. And that's from Abraham Lincoln. When you have that passion, people can feel that. So when you have a purpose and you have that passion, that makes you a much more effective speaker. When you're a salesperson, you want to believe in your product. Otherwise, you're not a salesperson, you're a con man. When I was in the food and freezer business, and I would show these people, I would say, hey, if I can show you where you can get twice as much food, better food, guaranteed, and it'll include the price of a freezer, it'll be half the price of what you're paying right now. Would you place an order with me tonight? Well, people would say, like, boy, if this guy can do that, I'm in. I'm all in. And I knew that we could do it. I knew that we could get that job done. So when you have that purpose, when you have that passion, it's a lot easier to be the charismatic figure, to draw people into you. That's an important feature to have as a leader. It's not the only feature you have. I mean, some people are not as charismatic as others. It comes to mind Bill Gates or Aaron Zuckerberg. When I see them speak, they're not the most bubbly people I've ever heard speak before. But they have that knowledge, and that knowledge is their charisma. On the other hand, there's this one particular pundit that, like, whenever I see him, I always delete it. Why? Because he's a screamer. I don't want to be screamed at. All right, this guy's a screamer. Screamers are not people that I find very, apparently some people like this guy, okay, because the guy does very well. But to me, he's just a screamer. And that doesn't draw me into them. So it's sort of a combination of, if you're not enthusiastic, bubbly, whatever, then having knowledge is a charisma that draws people to you. So anyway, words versus actions. Remember that your actions speak louder than words. Remember that you want to lead by the power of your example, not by an example of your power, which is what too many leaders do in today's times. And because we will never end a meeting on a philosophical note, let's get out there and charge! I'm Eli's dad.